Hey guys, Sean DBD Creator here, and it seems that DBD is officially dying. After all these years, everything is finally going down the drain. After all these awful changes, the community has finally had enough, and behavior has been feeling it in their pockets. I don't know how this company hasn't, frankly,
there's something coming up behind it
with all these bad decisions and controversies that have happened this year. And if we're lucky, they'll finally take it as a sign to finally change things for the better and actually listen to their community.
So you like think I should tell them maybe that there's something back there?
Be wearing earmuffs because they're not listening to us literally at all. They might as well not even be able to see any of the posts we've been making, any of the videos we've made, talking about how this game is absolutely.
Maybe not. Maybe I'll leave him to it.
Now it's on its
You probably should too.
It's not the album. Hello everyone, I wanted to make a brief video today before whatever crazy reveals happen this Sunday, because boy, do I have something interesting that came out this week that I wanted to talk about. It was revealed through an IGN interview that Dead by Daylight has had its most successful year of all time, that being 2025, referencing a whopping 50% increase in revenue. This is astonishing to me and probably many of you to hear that, as 2025 was probably the year with the biggest blunders in Dead by Daylight's recent history. I don't think people quite realize just how many blunders behavior made in the big 2025 with their flagship game. I'm going to cover as many as I can in this list, but there's probably some that I'm going to miss out because it's just me going off the top of my head here. So if there's any that I miss, please list them down below. So I like to call these the 2025 oopsies. Pallet density, that's probably the biggest one, where pallets were doubled on most of the maps in the game. It used to be, I was talking about this on Crotus Pren the other day, both the Disturbed Ward and the Carnival map, Father Campbell's Chapel, where there used to be like 4 or 5, if you were lucky, pallets behind the main building, whatever happens to be. And now it's like 6 to 7. It used to be, it's like 6 to 7, sometimes more in that back area. And it's like this on almost every map. Autohaven got hit real bad, but essentially there's like a bajillion pallets now. Part of the gameplay flow in Dead by Daylight was conserving resources. And now that's not as much a thing anymore, because if you throw a pallet, there's probably another one somewhere nearby, no matter how wasteful you've been. We have Slaughtering Strike Myers, who took a character that was a little weak, but was very, very faithful to its source material and turned them into a dash killer. We have Krasu, who released very, very overpowered, but now is nerfed to a point where people don't really play her. Speaking of Krasu introduced, and then the mid-chapter afterwards, I believe, introduced both versions of the anti-tunnel, anti-camp, anti-slug changes that gutted the gameplay loop of Dead by Daylight, and even though these were ultimately rejected, that was a huge waste of dev time, and it's kind of haunting to realize that the devs think that if you try to win at all, you should be punished. And you may be thinking, wow, that's a little bit harsh to say, but the reason that I and so many people are heated about that is because I have to remind you, this replaced our much needed Operation Health that was supposed to clear up a lot of the bugs that still plague the game to this day. If you look on Beta Hub, there's over 2,000 of them. The tech debt is insane in this game. It is over the top, and it needed to be addressed a long time ago, and it felt like things were finally going to be addressed, but instead they spent that time on gameplay overhaul changes that didn't even end up hitting the game, which felt like we all kind of just got cheated. Speaking of cheating, there still hasn't been very much in the way of actually combating cheating in the game. The same, ebb and flow of sometimes there's a lot of cheaters, sometimes there's not, but there's still been no major improvements to stopping cheaters coming into the game. It is something that has persisted for years and years and years and continues to be a problem. We also have more 2v8 killing queue times multiple times despite player exhaustion. The Go Next epidemic has come back in full swing. It's kind of having a second wind, wink wink. People have found a way around the penalties that behavior initially imposed to try and stop the first wave of Go Next, and as of right now they are either not doing anything about it, or whatever's happening is just in the pipeline somewhere and it's kind of gotten lost. Going back to the Operation Health thought, there have been bugs in the game this year that have been fixed, but some of those have taken forever to get fixed to the point where it's affected many players in matches. Looking at you, the scout bug in 2v8 that allowed them to crouch walk faster than the killers. Or fixes that outright didn't work. Xenomorph got a couple of these this year, bug fixes that were supposed to fix problems with the character that didn't even work. So they were in the patch notes, but when we actually went in there, it was just like it actually just wasn't fixed. And now getting to arguably the biggest stuff, the Walking Dead chapter was probably the most catastrophic thing that's happened to DBD in literal years. It broke the menu, it broke most of the killer roster, it broke some maps, it broke some survivor perks, and some of these bugs still persist in the game to this day and still have not been fixed from that massive blunder. Speaking of the Walking Dead, this also includes the infamous Chandler Rig stream where hackers invaded the publicity custom matches that they were trying to run to like raise awareness about the chapter releasing, and this is where the devs also ignored OTTS, even though OTTS had the solution to fix the hackers invading, which was inviting people to spectate so there were no slots to actually be in the custom match. They just ignored him. And that happened live on stream. They didn't play games, and the whole thing was just a disaster. This felt like it happened so long ago. I think the other day I even told somebody like, oh, that was years ago, but it's only been a little bit over a year. The goal also dropped last year, extremely overpowered, and then was nerfed again, similar to what happened to Crossu. And very, very near and dear to my heart, even though it was kind of a carryover from the end of 2024, they tried to skull merchant my boy Xenomorph, nerf them into the dirt and say, we'll fix it later. Thankfully, we were able to fight back against that and prevent that from happening, and I appreciate all of you that helped make that happen, but the fact that they were still cool with doing that was very scary, and I was happy to see it. I think it was April? Yeah, it was in April that they decided to, go with more of a side grade quality of life kind of change and not like nerfing them into the dirt. But the fact that it almost happened is still scary. And like I said, that's not even like a full exhaustive list. I'm sure there's many things that I missed last year that also happened that frustrated the community and made us feel like the game was in a really, really rough state because, well, it kind of is. I know many content creators have made videos this year commenting on the poor state of the game. Just Google, is DBD dying? Even though it's clearly not because of the IGN article, but Google that. You'll see a ton of videos that are like 3 months ago, 8 months ago, 5 months ago, where it's like, things are bad right now. People can see it as plain as day, unless they're only playing once or twice, but we'll get to that. Many creators on Twitch or on YouTube are going into variety or outright on breaks from the game right now because of the accumulation of all the issues that we just talked about. And I've been saying content creator, content creator, content creator, but many of you also reflect these very sentiments down in the comments below. When you come into my Twitch chat at twitch.tv/TheMrHeadache, you tell me all of the things that are upsetting and frustrating you and how you don't want to play the game right now. And that includes all my other socials, Twitter, TikTok, whatever. And I try to take these stories and experiences and harness them into videos later, since I know that sometimes the devs get their hands on these videos from time to time. I want to be that connective tissue between constructive criticism from the community and the devs themselves. Would my life be so much easier if I was like, bro, no way, and I just made silly videos and I just didn't have to worry about anything? Absolutely. Would I probably be more successful that way? Sure, absolutely. But I would not want that to come at the expense of the lack of voice that people would have otherwise. Honestly, it gets a little bit overwhelming sometimes, because obviously when you're taking in all this critique all the time, some people take it a little bit far in some places, and it gets really overwhelming. That's a lot of negativity to have around you all the time. I'm just one guy. But I am thankful that you guys bring these stories to me and your experiences to me and tell me about your pain points that you have with the game, so I am able to then harness that into a video like this. So it's something constructive, it's something that's hopefully helpful, that hopefully gets into the right hands, so hopefully we can see a better future for the game overall. So to bring things back around, I think I said in a recent video, and I know for sure I've said it a lot on stream recently, I was beginning to get the sinking feeling of like two different reasons that I think the game health and game balance has been kind of like ignored in like the last 18 months or so. First, the key jingling thing, the Markiplier meme. Oh, I said your favorite thing, backrooms. Of big licenses in 2v8. Those are the key jingles right now. It's big license, 2v8. The theory being that big licenses in 2v8 really are just pulling in that much money that realistically, the state of the game doesn't really matter that much because the cash is just coming in either way. And second, my other theory as to why was that this one obviously is a little bit more of an empathetic take, but perhaps with all of the collabs on the horizon, because we have Jason, and at least of recording this video, have seemingly teased several more collaborations that are probably going to be announced this Sunday. Even if all those teases don't come one-to-one as a collab, we at the very least have at least one confirmed survivor that's coming out as well. And this is also including the big 10th year anniversary event. So I think for the 10th anniversary event with a lot of new content releasing, it's probably all hands on deck, and that's probably their main focus. So bugs and balance probably aren't high on the totem pole in terms of their priority. Now, realistically, what is the answer? It's probably somewhere in between. But regardless, we know for sure that the sloppy year of 2025 that left a lot of us with our mouths agape and extremely disappointed didn't really hurt their bottom line basically at all. The state of the game being very buggy, the balance being absurdly lopsided, it really hasn't hurt anything, at least on the back end for their financials. So despite the common misery that a lot of the general player base has had with the game in the last 18 months or so, it seems that realistically, there's not really a huge incentive on the back end for them to really do anything about it. So what am I saying? What's the point of all this? That the money flow is just so good that our experiences and state of the game really don't matter? No, let's take this scenario as a complete fact, that the reason that the game is in the state that it's in is because, well, financially they're still making ends meet, so who cares? We still matter at the end of that, or at least rather we should. Not to get too much in my social studies background here, but I'm going to use it for an example. In the US, we have what is called winning by plurality for most of our elections, which means that whoever got the most votes wins, even if it's not technically a majority. The most important aspect of this to our specific discussion here is that even if a candidate only wins like 51% of the vote per se, the other 49% don't really matter too much. Because the candidate barely clutched the most votes, they take the elective office, and while it's technically their civic duty to represent all the people in this newly elected position that they have to represent, you know, in practice, that doesn't really happen. Often they simply ignore that other 49% that didn't vote for them and only represent their political party's interests in what will keep them in office. And this leads to why the US election system is often so maligned. And this doesn't even include the weird system that we have with the Electoral College and electing the president, which is a whole other can of worms. But the point being is that our representation and how it operates is often a point of rigorous debate, and that's why it's so hard for us to get along and be heard by our government. If all it takes is just getting more votes than the other guys, you're not really held to any serious standard to represent the people who didn't vote for you. And once again, like I said, once you get into office, you are more inclined to do what keeps you in office, which means only pandering to the people who voted you in, pandering to whatever companies are influencing things in the background. Many politicians will make alliances with each other to stay in. Like, there's a lot of things that go into that, but at the bottom of that importance is the people, which really sucks. And that's why so many people are angry all the time, no matter what side of the political aisle you're on, because it feels like we're not barely being heard a lot of the time. And you're probably wondering, Brand, what does any of this have to do with Dead by Daylight in 2025 being their most successful year? Well, it's a word of caution. Simply because the majority of players who likely showed up for big licenses like Five Nights at Freddy's, Tokyo Ghoul, or show up and leave for 2v8 just for those events are happy with how things are going, it doesn't necessarily mean you simply ignore the rest of your player base. Like I said in the previous video, once you run out of jingle keys to jingle, so to speak, it will be the general player base who is the backbone of your game. If you're serious about keeping this game going for another 10 years, like you keep saying, it would be wise to take the time to, at least after this big intense 10th anniversary period, to give the game its much needed maintenance in terms of game health and its poor performance. Because once the big flashy license well runs dry and the event modes get either stale or uninvented, probably both if we're being honest, because that 20 years is a long time for a game to run, then all you have is us, the general players who hop on at least once or twice a week, playing your game regularly or buying the new content. Often both. And I'm not an idiot. Okay, I'm an idiot in some ways, but not this reason. But realistically, I know this video doesn't actually matter that much. This will be a flash in the pan before the fanfare of whatever big reveals are coming this Sunday. But once that celebration dies down, once the elation comes to an end, and we balance out again to some sort of normal baseline, I really hope we come back to the subjects that we've talked about in this video. I don't necessarily think that we as a general player base need to be at odds with this silent majority of the player base. It's not impossible to make changes that make the game more welcoming and easier for casual players while maintaining health and balance for those who are here thick and thin for Dead by Daylight. I think right now a lot of the changes you've made in the past year have been for the casual audience, but the difference being is that it's made at the expense of the general audience. It's not something that's like we're throwing the casual audience a bone so they'll stick around. It's we're taking something that the general audience likes, which is like general game health and moderately somewhat put together game balance, and we're going to take that out and give it to you guys. So you're taking from our corner, you're taking from our stuff to make these people stay longer. So if you take away anything from this video behavior, if you somehow get your hands on this, I hope you understand that it doesn't have to be this or that. It doesn't have to be casual audience versus general audience. I think you really could strike a happy medium between the two. But right now, I and many others haven't really seen that effort from you to strike the balance if it's even on your radar at all. I want to see a future of this game where I can confidently recommend this to my friends. I can say like, yeah, this game used to be really messy and buggy, but they've been putting in the work the last year or so. It's like actually gotten a lot better. You should hop back on and see how you like it. Or another example, oh yeah, you like Plague? I know they were buggy for a long time, but they got like a huge bug fix patch. They're mostly fine again. Try it out and see if you like it. I would just like to be able to say stuff like that. I feel like there's so much thought in the DBD community that's just like, if there's any sort of criticism, and to be fair, a lot of people say really personal and mean things when they're trying to express their criticism, but they've been frustrated for a long time. Not that it makes it okay, but it's like, they don't get the point across. I think a lot of us just want to be able to be like, yeah, Dead by Daylight is objectively a great game, and we want to recommend it to as many people as possible. We don't have to be like, yeah, it's good, but watch out for the bugs. Oh, it's good, but yeah, the balance is really bad. So make sure you get the good perks at least so you can win. You know, like it's like it's just one of those things where I really want to be able to just say those things and do those things without having to be like, oh, you can enjoy DBD, but watch out for A, B, C, D, E, F, G of all this bad stuff that they haven't addressed in a really long time. Which, like I said earlier, it's like, you know, if a casual player hops on, let's use the Plague example, a casual player hops on and plays Plague once or twice, they might not even catch that the character's really bugged because they just assume that, like, I don't know, that's how the character is because they don't play the game that often. So if they run into major bugs, as long as they're not really dramatic, they're going to be like, oh, I guess that's just how it is. I can't tell you, I'm the Xenomorph guy. I wrote the guide, did all that stuff. A lot of people come to my Twitch chat while I'm playing Xenomorph, and I'll talk about that bug they've had for a while now, where sometimes when you shoot over an object, even if there's no like invisible wall there that's consistent, sometimes you just strike thin air with the tail right now. I don't know why that is, because like the answer would be, well, it's bad collision, it's invisible wall, but I'll get it over like pallets, where like I will hit the thin air above a pallet when I'm like 3 feet above it. I don't know why that happens. So many people come into my chat and don't even know that's a thing. Like some people are like, yeah, I was watching your videos and I'm trying to learn Xenomorph. And then it'll happen to me. I'm like, yep, got the bug, darn. And they're like, wait, that's a bug? I thought I hit the pallet. I thought I was just wrong. Like people assume it's their fault if they don't play very often. But if you're in that general player base and you play even moderately often, you understand that something is wrong here. So I think that's how they get away with a lot of this stuff, because like if you're just too casual, you don't notice. And like that bug that Xenomorphs had with the tail thing, been that way for years. Plague had her bugs for years. Like a lot of this stuff has been here a really, really long time. And I don't know. I don't know. At this point, it's getting into rant territory, and this was not supposed to be a rant video. But what I'm trying to say here is I don't think catering to one side of the community means it has to come at the expense or often neglect of the other. That's all. Yeah, either way, 2025 was DBD's biggest financial success ever, despite it being the rockiest year in recent memory, which essentially confirms that licenses and events really do overshadow and almost kind of mask the issues that the game has. If you guys are grown adults that live in the adult world, you would call this the Landlord Special. You guys have probably been in this situation before where you're looking to rent a place and the place you're trying to rent has a lot of longstanding issues, whether it be structural or something like that. You're going to find out when you rent that like, this sink likes to break down or something like that honestly the landlord should have fixed a long time ago. But you know what? You don't see that. You know why? Because the landlord has freshly painted the walls. The landlord has given you new marble countertops. So you're like, whoa, this is so cool. This is amazing. Wow, you replaced the AC? Wow. So you don't see it coming. You don't see it. It's called the Landlord Special because they make things look pretty, but on the inside, you're just waiting for the issues to happen. And the cycle continues because if you get tired of it and you get sick of it and you move out, they do it again. They paint over the cracks. They paint over the issues. Refresh maybe the shower. And then they're like, okay, I'm going to rent it out to somebody else until they literally cannot stop putting off whatever issues that the space has until they can't sell it anymore. And then maybe then they'll address it. But I don't want to say that about my favorite game. that my devs for my favorite game are giving my game the Landlord Special, but they are giving my game the Landlord Special. So I'd rather not see that happen to DBD. Actually kind of already is, but Yeah, either way, I really hope they don't take the success of this year 2025 as a reason to ignore the game's core issues. But what do you think, guys? What is the main reason that behavior is seemingly turning a blind eye to the state of the game? Do you think the resounding success of year 2025 is the smoking gun? Or do you have a different reason as to why you believe they let game health and game balance kind of go down the drain? Let me know down in the comments below. But other than that, that's it for today's video, friends. Thank you so much for liking and subscribing today, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. But if I don't see you there, I'll see you when I see you. Goodbye.